In this video, you will learn how to make Amazon store pages work together with sponsored brand ads, and also what elements are important on the store pages which could drive you more conversions to your Amazon product. Our guest today is Brent Zahradnik from AMZ Pathfinder agency, which helps Amazon sellers with their Amazon advertising. This session is hosted by LISETT. She works with different Amazon brands. And if you like this conversation, if you find anything useful, don't forget to click thumbs up, like button below this video.
Hello, Brent. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Brent. I'm from the US originally, but I've lived in Europe for almost 3.5 years now. And I've run AMZ Pathfinder since August of 2015.
Okay, that's cool. And what you're going to teach us today?
Yeah, so today we're going to focus specifically on sponsored brands paired with store pages, sometimes called Amazon stores or storefronts, and how to kind of maximize results when you take those two things and put them together.
Okay, that's definitely something sellers should be aware of and should be using. So let's dive into your presentation.
So Amazon stores, brief primer on what these are. Most sellers watching this video are probably familiar with them, but just in case, it's basically a free way to build like a mini shop inside of Amazon for your brand. And really, I look at things from an advertising perspective due to my background and running the agency and everything. So really, when stores first came out, we saw them kind of like, oh, this is immediately a great landing page to send traffic to that is free of competitors. Because as everyone knows, you go on a product detail page and there's dozens of competitors, whether they be ads or organic or purchased together or whatever. And a store page is kind of like a sanitized area where there are no competitors to interrupt the shopper's experience as you want it, kind of like your own website. So really, if you have a brand that is brand registered and you have a sufficiently large product catalog, I really don't see any reason why you shouldn't have a store page built. Besides the time that it takes to invest with like the images and photos, videos, whatever. There's really no reason to not have one if you're brand registered. Sorry.
And how much time does it take to put together like a minimalistic store page and let's say more like strategic one?
Yeah, just a minimal one where you have maybe just a couple sub nav pages at the top, like 3 or 4. Provided you already have some high quality image collateral, you could do that in an afternoon. Usually the most lengthy and frustrating part is getting Amazon's approval because they'll say, oh, we don't like this grammar, or there's something about this sales copy that we don't care for. But yeah, that's usually the part you have to revise once or twice to get figured out. But if you want to do one that's really professionally designed, you can work with a company or an agency that's going to do that. And they'll have the kind of experience from making other store pages to know what works and what doesn't work. And really, I think they have to do their homework in talking to you as the brand owner to understand how to best portray your brand, because telling a story of the brand, as I have highlighted here, is really the job of the store page. You know, you're not limited to the small amount of things you can do on a product detail page, even with A+ content. So yeah, to come back to that point, high quality images and video make all the difference. I think that like this one I have here is Vitamix, which is one of the ones Amazon recommends you look at. But they have like great videos, incredible photos, like lifestyle shots and everything. And it just looks really premium, looks really, really nice. The food's appealing. The people are smiling and attractive. This is like a well done store page. And so you're trying to tell that brand story without being limited by product detail pages or other competitors. And so you need to make sure that the navigation is also logical, easy to understand as you imagine yourself as a shopper kind of like flitting around between categories and looking at what products might be useful or interesting for you. And actually, there's a new feature I wanted to highlight that's maybe a bit time sensitive, but this just came out like recently. You can do what's called store scheduling. Sorry. So let's imagine that it's Prime Day next week. It's not, but let's just imagine. You can set up a bunch of store pages to go live, 2 or 3 days before Prime Day, and then set a bunch of sponsored brand campaigns to send traffic to those also in those 2 or 3 days before Prime Day to get things kind of ready for the big sale. So that allows you to schedule get the pages pre-approved, and then they publish and go live at that date. So just another fun feature I thought I'd add in there.
Okay, and as of today, do you think that sellers like take the advantage of having this free tool to build the store page, or are sellers rather using it not too much?
I think that most sellers and businesses we interact with are using store pages. However, where I think most are falling short is they don't invest enough in the design. They don't think too carefully about how it's going to look to a shopper, and how the flow of someone using their page might look. I don't think they look at the analytics, which is called store page insights, enough. So I think that those things are where it falls short. Most businesses are using them. Almost all of them will have it built, but does it look up to my standards? Not exactly. And we do audits for store pages, for people that onboard with us, or businesses that just approach us about having theirs done, because we do offer that as a service. It's a very small part of what we do, but it's fun. We like doing it too. So the question I always get then, this is why it's in quotes, is from clients and from people I talk to is, but how do we get traffic to the store page? No one ever clicks on that stupid brand name below the title of my product. And actually I provided an image here, because you can see now Amazon actually prompts shoppers, visit the Vital Proteins store, or visit the store for Amazon Basics, visit the whatever store. It used to just be the brand, but now it was an actual call to action, which is nice. I think Amazon's made a good improvement there. And that has helped for sure. We've seen a bump in visits after Amazon changed that. And it's true, if you build a store page and nobody sees it, well then what's the point? It didn't really have much of an impact, did it? So what we recommend, especially because we're on the advertising side, is sponsored brands. Big shock. So there's two ways to drive traffic to a store page using sponsored brands, and we'll go over both of them kind of quickly here. The first is what's called a product collection. This is the kind of classic sponsored brands. And the screenshot here, you can see you select a store page. I've blurred it out for client privacy reasons, but you can choose a store based on one of your brands, your brand registered for, and then you can choose a sub page, which is that top menu navigation. And so that allows you to send people to a very specific place. And so this is by far the most commonly used sponsored brand campaign we see for store pages. And you can basically feature 3 products. And when someone clicks on one of those products, or they click on the logo, or just in this case, this custom image here, they are sent to either the product page, the landing page with 3 products, or the store page itself. So the real trick to this is carefully considering what page you are sending shoppers to, and how that pairs with the keywords, your images, your copy, everything, and how they all align together. The example I gave here is actually that same brand I just talked about, the Vital Proteins. I just typed in matcha green tea powder the other day on my phone, and it came up with this ad. Now it looks really appealing. It's showing us a custom image beta, which is what that nice lifestyle image is, with a product kind of offset in the background. But this is particularly a product that is like green tea, but it's not the kind you would use for cooking or brewing. It's actually a kind you make smoothies with, I guess, and it has collagen in it. So I felt like it was a little bit off the mark for what I was looking, but still relevant-ish. But it sure looks good. So I give them points for making a really good looking image. And you can use this custom image beta with this. I do recommend doing that if possible, because we've seen better results with that. It just was really, really premium. And it takes up a lot of space at the top of mobile search and desktop search, although I've seen it a lot more on mobile.
And are you able to change the image for the same campaign and keyword?
You can build additional sponsored brand campaigns with additional images, and then you can test them against each other. As best you can manage an A/B test on Amazon, there's no real facility to do that, but you can start them concurrently and see which one has better results.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. You can go in later and edit the creative, which is a new feature for sponsored brands fairly recently, but we typically don't recommend that. It depends. It's a bit situational. So of the 3 options we have here, video cannot send traffic to store pages. Store Spotlight is the newer one, which came out, I believe, in July of 2020. So it's only a few months old, maybe June. It's very recent, but basically instead of sending traffic to individual products, what it does is highlights and sends traffic to your top level sub pages. So let's say you're that that vitamin brand I just showed off there. They have like one for collagen that's made from like beef gelatin. They have one that's for maybe with like dairy proteins. And so you can have these different like nav pages if someone's interested in like a collagen supplement. And what that allows people to do is click on those different sub pages and then go to like all the products under that sub page. And you can change the images of the sub page. You can change where it goes when you're setting it up. But this is really something that's a bit more high level, whereas the first sponsored brands example I gave with a product list is very like specific. You're sending them to a specific page. This one is much more of like a high level overview of the brand. And so you're giving them an idea of what your entire catalog has on offer, and then letting them choose which subpage they think is most appealing. So yet again, you have to do the hard work of matching up the keywords with the search intent with whatever that person's most likely looking for. So a couple tips that we found useful for optimizing sponsored brands, specifically for stores. You want to break out the keywording or product groupings into individual campaigns. Like don't put your, I'm having trouble thinking of a specific example, but don't put your protein powder in with your collagen powder. Like keep those two things separate in distinct campaigns. So this is going to allow you for better budgeting allocation and better visibility of data at the top level when you actually go in to look at the results and optimize your campaigns, several times a week. So another good example is targeting a competitor term versus targeting your own products with a specific keyword that's focused on those products. Yet again, you don't want to mash those two things together. That's going to make it very hard to understand the data that comes out of it. And this is probably the most important one. Drive traffic to a specific store page and keep the searcher's intent, the copy, the images, the landing pages all lined up. To borrow a quote from someone, I'm not sure who, be a meaningful specific. I think that's a really powerful phrase that kind of encapsulates this idea. Instead of just saying like collagen powder and then just having like some boring ad copy that sends someone to a general page, be very specific with what people are looking for. The third thing to highlight is sending traffic to the home page is a mistake that we see sellers make very often. We see businesses make very often. I guess they just think, well, I'll let the shopper figure it out. But if you already know what the search intent is for a keyword or a search term, you should try to put that person as close as possible to what they want and reduce the friction there. So we recommend sending traffic to the homepage for specifically branded keywords, or maybe ones that are more general, where it's not really clear what that searcher's intent or interest is. And then they'll be able to go and find which product they want. Think of it kind of like the homepage on a website. It's really just there to get someone to go somewhere else. It's like a nexus or a hub that they have to pass through. And then lastly, just make your ads clear, focus them, keep the language and the copy relevant to the audience who you want to speak to. Ostensibly, your audience, who is searching for what you offer. So speak to them directly. Be a meaningful specific. I'll repeat it again because I think it's a useful guideline. Now, for Pathfinder specifically, for our agency, these are some of the best practices we recommend for sponsored brands. So we use exact and occasionally phrase match keywords. We break campaigns out by match type. So we would have, a campaign focused on, yet again, this collagen, green tea collagen example, and we'd have maybe 15 or 25 keywords in there, all exact match, driving to a specific subpage. And that would be a very effective campaign. Generally speaking, we avoid broad match keywords, but it might be okay to use broad match modified. Broad match modified is essentially a keyword match type that's available only in sponsored brands right now with Amazon. But if you put a plus sign after one of the keywords, that means that it's mandatory and must be included in that shopper's search. So if you can carefully craft some broad match modified with limited use, it might be a good thing to use with some more like broad queries for sponsored brands. And like I said, keep the groupings to under 30 keywords or less, thematically grouped up and really tight. And then build different campaigns for like competitors, for branded efforts. Better data segmentation allows you to see the results. Don't start mixing your branded terms with competitor branded terms or with generic terms or category terms. Try to keep them all separate if possible. Just following these things along with the ones on the previous slide that speak specifically to store pages should allow you to have some pretty good results if you have a good store page. It's kind of hard to go wrong if you follow some of the basic best practices. So lastly, like how do we make sense of results when we set up these campaigns? Well, we use all the normal statistics like, okay, what's ACoS, or now Amazon's introduced ROAS? Are those things meeting our ROI targets? Or we have a good click-through rate? Are people purchasing? And we also have something called Audience Insights. So Audience Insights is a basic analytics package that goes along with Amazon stores. And that allows you to look at traffic by source. So you can actually see what page has a lot of sales from sponsored brands. I have an example here on the right side. This is just all sponsored brands traffic from a recent 30-ish day window for one of our clients, actually. And you can see that just from sponsored brands alone, we've got a little bit over 1,000 visits, $3,000+ in sales, 70 units sold, and 63 orders. And we get kind of a look at it day by day here on the chart. So we can see pretty easily and quantify where the traffic from sponsored brands has gone on your store page and what actions they've taken. For instance, with this same advertiser, this same account, looking at this data, I was able to determine that 50% of the sales really came from like 2 different product pages, which are some of their top sellers. And we have a lot of ad spend in sponsored brands going to those products. So that's not really a surprise, but it's nice to be able to see which pages are actually pulling in more units sold or have a higher average page view count, for instance, like people who come in those pages viewed more other pages than other people. So it's like very, very basic website analytics, but it is helpful. So look at it by page, look at it by source. And this is free as well. If you just go into your store, you'll see a link there for store page insights or analytics insights. And when you're talking about results for sponsored brands in general, do not forget the new to brand metric. I've highlighted it here in red on the right side. So this is people who have purchased through your campaigns that haven't purchased in 365 days from your brand. And you can see a lot of the efforts we have here. These are all store page sponsored brands campaigns, just a slice of them in one of our accounts. But many of these are 80, some of them are 100%, some of them are 90s percent new to brand. So you're making sales to shoppers who have never encountered your brand before. And if they have a good experience, either on the store page, the buying process, and then of course using the product, the chances are they're going to know your brand then for years to come, and maybe they'll repurchase again, depending on what your products are. If you use something consumable, like the collagen product I mentioned earlier, there's a good chance they're going to come back if they like it. And that is something that is hard to measure within the confines of Amazon, because how do you measure, lifetime value of a customer just through one interaction? They might come and buy for 2 or 3 years, every 60 days or something like that. And that is very valuable for you as a brand. So make sure to keep that metric in mind. It's not everything is so ACoS focused all the time. And don't be surprised if the stats that you see here don't line up with the ones in the store insights, because ultimately some people will just click on the product and go directly to the page and buy, and they'll never end up on the actual store page. So it depends on what action the shopper takes. And we can't really control what they do. So just have to deal with it.
What happens when product goes out of stock? Does the ad still goes on and you have to close it manually, or what happens?
Great question. Yeah. So for years, that was a problem that plagued sponsored brands, where you would be running a campaign and suddenly your product will go out of stock, or you lose the buy box due to some other factor like a so-called hijacker, taking it. And then you'd still be effectively running ad spend to that listing and paying sometimes for someone else's exposure. Amazon released an update fairly recently that has changed that. So those campaigns will now either pause or the creative for that particular ad will come out of rotation, depending on how you have your sponsored brands set up. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you do send traffic to a store page, you can use just one product if you want. There are some circumstances where that makes sense to do. For instance, if you only have one of something in your catalog, but it's a very popular item and there's not very many variations or just one variation, you send traffic directly to that and you keep the keywords nice and tightly targeted. Like I said, less than 30, put them on exact match. And then you have a very, very relevant campaign driving traffic. But that also means that if you have 3 products and one of them goes out of stock and drops out of rotation, well, those 2 will still be there. So it's not going to kill the entire campaign, which is good. Another thing about going out of stock, Amazon also recently released a feature making store pages what they call out of stock aware, which means if you upload a big catalog of products and one of them does go out of stock or lose the buy box, then it will drop off the store page. You won't see it anymore. It'll just disappear. So then it creates like a clean appearance on the store page and someone doesn't have a weird experience where they click on a product on a store page, they get to Amazon's page and, well, they can't buy it. That's not very nice. So it eliminates that problem.
Okay, so it's nice to hear that Amazon is doing changes that are actually really good for the sellers, but also for the customers. But before driving traffic to the store pages, what are the must-have elements on the store page that should be there, presented, in addition to just photos?
Yeah, photos I think are by and large the number one thing, and especially nice photos, not photos you took in your basement on last weekend with your iPhone, right? Nice professionally made photos. I would say some other things that are necessary are the right balance of copy and images. If you just have only images, that's appealing and tells a story, but you have to use some of the features they have. They have a text overlay feature that allows you to put a text box over one of your high quality images. They have another one, which is, I think, more useful on mobile, but that allows you to actually tap on the images themselves. And that tapping, touching will send you to a link to that product page. What I suggest clients do when they want to use this feature or we implement it, you have to make it obvious that you can tap it, because on mobile, it doesn't pop up as a button. It's you have to put an arrow. It's tap here, touch here, and then people will go to the product page from that. So I think having a cohesive story you're telling about your brand with the images is one of the most important things. I know you asked me besides images, and I would say video, but that's even harder to do. So video is nice if you have it, especially if your product has been featured on a TV show or a famous YouTube channel or something. All those things are great social proof to have on there.
Okay, that's a really good tip regarding to the arrow or driving or letting customers know that they can actually tap on the photo as well. Okay,
it's not obvious. Cool. Yeah, it's not obvious. So,
have you tried any methods to upsell a customer more products than just the one they were initially coming after?
Yeah, that's something we haven't explored as much and probably should look into, because there are definitely products that are conducive to purchasing others in the same catalog. Let's say you buy the flagship product for $60 US, whatever it is. And then maybe there's an accessory for 19 that makes a lot of sense. I could see a scenario wherein you feature on that page, here's the primary product. And then as they scroll down slightly, they can see, oh, wait, there's this accessory a pencil for an iPad or something, right? It's another cheaper product that pairs well with it. That's definitely something to explore and try. We have fairly limited analytics, like I mentioned, from the store insights. So I'm not sure how much data you could get on that. But if you start to see more orders come in that have those two things paired, that could be a good indicator that that's working. I think that's a great idea. But yeah, we don't have a lot of clients that have as much upsell ability for things. It's more like people who are looking for a specific product, and we want to kind of keep the advertising and the message and the ad on that whole flow kind of on target and on brand. So that person comes in, there's no confusion. This is exactly what they want. It's in front of them right now. So the time to buy is right now.
Okay. And lastly, like for which kind of sellers you would recommend looking into pairing like sponsored brand ads together with the store pages? Is it just for more established brands or also for beginners?
I think as long as your product catalog is large enough to support a store, an Amazon store that like looks good. If you have 3 products, that's going to be really, really tough unless you have a lot of story to tell about those 3 products. If you have 20 products, it's going to be much easier because you'll be able to have a navigation menu that looks a little bit more substantial. I think what you want to avoid is sending people to a homepage that has everything and then there's no other navigation items and it looks like kind of like empty. It's not really a good like feeling when they get there. It's like, oh, this brand is like 2 products and that's it. Not interesting. So it might not be very appealing for, let's say, younger brands that only have a handful of products. So I would caution them to think hard about that before they invest the time and money, from a photography, video production standpoint, in making a store page.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for introducing us this advertising type together with the store page. So could you please tell our viewers how can they reach out and how do you usually help Amazon sellers?
Yeah, sure. So at Pathfinder, we work with advertising exclusively. So anything that's Amazon advertising related, now including DSP as well, Amazon's display ad platform, which we're very big on. But we do a lot of sponsored brands. It's a huge part of the business and a huge part of revenue for many of our clients. So it's something we're very familiar with for years now. And we work with North American and European businesses. And you can reach out on LinkedIn, or on Facebook. You can reach us at hello@amzpathfinder.com. That email goes to me and some other people at the team. We'll get back to you. And you can even find me personally on Facebook and shoot me a message if you wish.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brent, and we wish you good luck in your business.
Thank you, LISETT. Bye.
I hope this presentation was useful for you, and if you would like to get in touch with Brent, you will find the link below to AMZ Pathfinder, his agency, below in the description. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Brent where he's talking about Amazon DSP advertising, whom is it for, and how much to invest when you want to go into this type of advertising for your Amazon brands.